What's up, Miami? Welcome to another episode of Fast Break. As you see, my man's a two-man crew today. My man Justin Garfield. What's up, man?
What up? You're looking at Steve Kerr live in his home city, San Francisco.
Oh, man, when you walk around the cities today, you should really just walk around, kind of like put on some gear, maybe just like some glasses to see how many people actually stop you. Be like, can I get an autograph? Play it off. You're like, of course, of course. Oh, man.
The one thing I actually forgot on this trip was my sunglasses. I was looking, and
Oh.
then this one pair smelled awful, and I was like, I'm not taking this to San Francisco. No. So I just tossed it until I got in the plane, and here I am.
To everybody tuning in, thank you. Thank you, like always, for being our loyal listeners. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. I think this is the first time I've said this in like the last 4 or 5 shows. So we're officially entering NBA dead season. But we got some news today. Obviously, the Jaylen Brown extension, some situation, obviously, with the Paul Pierce comparing himself to D Wade. But we're going to start the show first and foremost, obviously, sending our prayers to Bronny James and the James League. An unfortunate situation that has happened at times too often. He went into cardiac arrest during practice. He collapsed, obviously, due to the quick response from the U.S. medical staff. He was able to be transported to a hospital. He's in stable condition. But this is something that is very scary for any parent, and very scary for any athlete, because it's crazy the timing. We have our high school team. We have physicals this Thursday. And I send obviously a message as one of the coaches, like, guys, your body tends to tell you when it reaches a limit. Now it could be an isolated incident. At times we might have a pre-existing condition that could get passed over in a physical. It's not identified. It's happened before. Hank Gathers, obviously the most famous, Reggie Lewis. There's supreme athletes that have had conditions that now you're praying obviously for his safety to make sure he's stable, but now comes the second part of this. It's the prolonged testing, the extensive testing, because now you have to determine if this is an isolated incident or he has a condition where he might not be able to play professional basketball. Sometimes things like this saves lives. And unfortunate that it happened, but you're glad it happened now and control it and maybe treat it. So Justin, you're in LA. Obviously a little bit further from LA. You're in California, but what's the thing going on? What did you feel when you heard that news this morning?
I woke up to the news, and it was strange because I had some uncomfortable dreams and woke up saying, somebody give me some joy in this life. But then I turn to my phone, I see that, and I just realized that who cares about my joy in this moment? Who cares how I should feel? And I feel that way too, because this is somebody's life. Somebody's life could have been gone just yesterday. And the fact that he's alive and well and out of the ICU is just a total blessing. So seeing his other players such as Hank Gathers, who, by the way, Spoelstra was on the court just
Yes,
inches away from the action when that
when
happened.
he collapsed. Yes.
Pistol Pete Maravich, same thing,
Yeah.
enlarged heart. Reggie Lewis, like you mentioned before, the infamous incident where he got two opinions and then kept playing and
Mhm.
then passed away just a couple days later, I believe.
Yeah. Doing a pickup, doing warm up.
Bronny's just very lucky. His dad is a billionaire and can have the resources if he needs to go see the top doctors in the world
Yeah.
and clear him. Some of those other people out there, many people who this happens to in high school nowadays, I've heard it's the leading cause of high school
Of
deaths.
athlete death. Yes, absolutely. Fortunately, in
They may not be able to
basketball.
afford that same thing. We're lucky
No,
that Bronny's still here, but prayers to the James family and everybody involved at USC. Thank you to the USC crew who was there and helped save his life.
and this is something that I've always, because both of my children are athletes. My daughter's a volleyball player and she's a flag football player. My son plays basketball, and we've gone out of our way to make sure to get them EKGs, to take them to specialists, because this has been my always normal fear as a parent. You have many things that you obviously take care of, but when they started playing sports, I always, in the back of my mind, I understand it could be your luck of the draw, but a lot of people have heart conditions, and because they aren't athletes, or they haven't pushed their bodies to a certain limit, it never shows itself. It never manifests. And sometimes it takes somebody to put their body to the limit, and it could be at any moment, and it can happen to you. And now you start questioning, because, like I was telling my players, it's not to scare you guys, but you have to be a realist in this life. Anything can happen at any single moment, especially when you're playing a sport. You're putting your body to an extreme where your body's obviously not designed at times to go to these extremes. That's why athletes, people don't understand. They always see an athlete and they see flashy, high paid. He gets to live whatever they want. The women get to do whatever they want, et cetera, et cetera. These athletes, to be in pinpoint shape, they have to push to the limit, sanity, to get to what they want to do, to accomplish the goals they want to accomplish. So I feel for him. Obviously, he has the example of his father. You don't know if it could be stress related to the moves to USC, but usually when you go into cardiac arrest, it's not only a stress related issue. There's something that could be going on there, or there was a short circuit at the moment. So hopefully everything is well, whatever it is. If it's a pre-existing, if it's an isolated incident, obviously basketball at this point is secondary. A lot of people are going to make this story because he's LeBron James' son. Like you said, I always see this as like Magic Johnson having HIV open up the floodgates and the knowledge of people educating themselves to this disease, to this virus. And you can say that because Magic Johnson got it, it ended up saving a lot of lives. This happening to Bronny I could be colleges around the world, high schools around the world, parents, they're going to do further testing now, I believe. I hope that there is part of a physical exam was an extreme heart condition test. I know they put you through stress test and these, but there has to be some way, an MRI, a scan, where you can have an in-depth imaging of your heart as part of your physical. Because obviously it happens when you get sent to specialists and all that. But I do believe it should be a routine part of a physical, because you can have a kidney ailment, you can have a liver ailment, but your heart is your motor. Your heart is everything. Without your heart, I mean, there's no beat. I believe is an essential part of that. So we'll see if it changes. Typically, things like these end up changing certain things. And on a note, you said, Justin, because it does put things into perspective. Sometimes we get down on ourselves, and even it could be us alone, our family, our kids. And unfortunately, it takes moments like these to kind of appreciate what we do have. And it happens to anybody. So you always want to keep things in perspective. And you don't want it to be something like this, but something like this usually triggers that. And you're like, are my problems really that big? I'm alive. I'll tackle them as they come. I'll overcome. I'm alive for a purpose. That's what I always like to think about it. And whoever's listening out there, if you're down on yourself, if you're having a bad day, look to your left and look to your right. All of us are going to have a bad day too. So you got to count your blessings. What you do have over what you don't have, you don't need at the moment. So keep on going, keep on pushing through. I don't know why I want to say that. I just felt like saying that. So whoever's listening that might need to hear that. There you go. On good news for a man, Jaylen Brown. Jaylen signed the richest contract in NBA history, of 5 years supermax, $304 million. It is the richest contract until the next person signs the next supermax. So short-lived historical moment. Justin, how do you feel with extension? Because the Tatum extension is coming up. Boston is not really, when you sit down and think about it, for how historic Boston is not really a destination franchise. Not a lot of people choose to go there. So I wanted to see your take on this. How do you feel Boston did with his supermax? Was it a necessity? He was involved in trade rumors. I see it as they secure their asset. They can trade him at any moment. How do you see this? What's your take on this extension?
First off, I've got to congratulate Jaylen Brown for securing the biggest bag in NBA history. And look, if you've got that opportunity, you see the dollar signs written all over the wall, you take it.
Of course.
This is generational wealth, life-changing money, not just for you, but like I said, for the next generation if he has kids, and his kids or her kids, whoever that is, if he has kids. So going forward here, I also want to say this. This also shows where we are as a world with inflation.
Yeah.
Now, we're seeing Mbappe the other day getting nearly $1 billion offered, probably over $1 billion with the transfer fee
Yeah.
to Saudi Arabia, how much Messi turned down to come to the U.S. when he's still getting a percentage, I believe, of
Yeah.
all of the Apple TV subscriptions.
Mm-hmm.
All the MLS franchises are contributing to his salary.
Yep.
You know what kind of athlete that takes? And then you've
Yes.
got Jaylen Brown, a guy who's not even the best player on his team, arguably, a guy who was a two-time All-Star,
Mm-hmm.
a guy who has one finals appearance.
Yeah. And can go left and cannot go left and still got $304 million. That is, it's, I put it, I was, it's funny because I was talking to my wife about this today. I was, obviously, I know it's 10 years ago, but I'm like, look, during the Big Three era, the salary cap for a team was, I believe, 50 something million dollars, 55, 56, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, or no, even a little bit less. LeBron, in their last year, LeBron, Wade, and Bosh were each making 14 million, and this was their max contracts. I understand the league. The new CBA obviously helped them out because I like to think about it in this route. You obviously, you're going to protect the owners, you're going to protect the players. If the players were making those salaries, you know how much money the owners were making off this league? Now, the new TV contract is going to be through the roof. You're talking about multiple billions of dollars. When Apple got the exclusive rights for MLS, where that's where you kind of knew like Messi was a possibility. So it's in the interest of all MLS to sign. That's why all of MLS cooperated. Adidas cooperated because it's a seismic move that is going to be felt in the United States for years, for generations. This is going to open up. We've never signed player. Well, I don't think there's ever been a player of Messi statue, maybe close to Ronaldo, coming in before Pelé at the time at his height. Obviously, when he signed, I believe it was the Cosmos. Was it the New York Cosmos or something like that? I forgot the name of it. But he came to the U.S. But at this given time, you compare it to Beckham in 2007, but there's nothing that compares to the hype of Messi. Seeing that game as well, you saw American sports through the roof. TV rights are through the roof. The NBA's new TV rights, you're talking about multiple $billion. And now, even the talks, Justin, of ESPN partnering with the leagues, with NFL, MLB, NBA, to have exclusive content so the leagues are part owners of ESPN. I wanted to ask you about that. Have you heard about that story? Have you read up on that?
I haven't read up on it, but I think it's pathetic that all these companies are laying all these employees off, and meanwhile they're on the verge of getting that kind of money.
This is my point here, where you're balancing is like your typical market with balancing inflation. I'm like, wait a second, your CEO make more than they were making years ago, but then you're laying off employees and their bonuses are through the roof, but you continue to lay off more employees and you lay off decent talent, which is what ESPN has done. ESPN had a series of layoffs where they had talent that was let go, not mediocre employees, not people underperforming. They were talented individuals, one of the makers. Obviously, not going to move from Stephen A. Smith, and it does give opportunity to other people. But across the board, there's a lot of money in these things. And with the leagues partnering with bettors, before betting was a shameful act, and now you have the league in bed with the casinos. They all make money. It's all about money at the end. So I look around and I see these contracts, and I always felt when you sign Bam to an extension, when you sign Jimmy to an extension, I remember always saying, I'm like, these contracts are going to look like a bargain by the next time you have these supermax. All of a sudden, Jimmy's 4 years, 184 extension seems very doable compared to a 5-year, $300 million extension. So you have your nucleus set for the next few years, possibly even acquiring Lillard, which I'll transition to that. We're at a standstill, thanks to Clutch, I believe it's day 23 of the Lillard watch. So it might prolong into the second weeks. You kind of see some terms coming along, Justin, but there's an interesting topic that they've been discussing, which I got to give credit to Tyler Hero. Tyler Hero yesterday went on Spaces and talked, and obviously with Austin, Chill Trill, I think is how you say it. He spoke, and he's always represented Miami the right way. He's used these trade rumors as fuel. He's been involved in various trade rumors for Hall of Fame players, not mediocre players. So you understand his value.
Since he was drafted, his name always comes up.
And he's continued to perform. I do feel that there's a possibility that when we be able to keep him, I don't know if the fit they'll go for. But supposedly one of the rumors, Sylvander, I don't know if he confirmed that, but he proposed that there is a scenario where we can acquire Dame without giving up Tyler Hero. And I can see that happening in the essence of, I still don't think Portland has any leverage. Portland is just waiting it out to make it seem like they were able to extract more talent. They worked, the deal until the very end. The Miami Heat had to beg to get. It's all PR at this point because they know they have to trade Dame. It just comes down to a matter of like what you're going to acquire for him. So what I do see happening with the Dame situation is it's going to be prolonged. It's going to continue to extend probably into mid-August. Now, how do you feel? Because my concern, I don't want to give up Jovic and Jaquez Jr. I do believe we can give up one. If you're Caleb Martin, if you're trading obviously Duncan Robinson, if you're trading multiple first-round picks, if you're taking back another contract, that plays to your side because you're alleviating Portland from the cap situation. So you might have to take less assets. I still think it ends up being a 3-team deal if we move Hero. But I'll ask you this one final time, Justin, because I promise you we're not going to talk Dame till the trade happens because we've heard everything. We've seen every scenario. How do you see this playing out in the end? Is Hero included? Is Jovic included? Is Jaquez included? How do you play now with Dame?
I did see this tweet, and I saw your response that you wouldn't have to give up both Jaquez and what's his face?
Jovic.
Jovic, that's right. And what I have to say to that is, as great as that sounds, this isn't his decision. It's Pat Riley's decision. It's the Blazers GM decision. It's whatever team gets involved's decision. And I think it's in their best interest that Hero is the nicest asset that the Heat have to dangle out there without giving up too much. But that trade that guy named, that you commented on, that's giving up a lot of depth on this team.
Yeah.
We already lost Gabe Vincent too, not to mention, and Max Strus. And so how are you going to fill out a roster with a bunch of guys on veteran minimums or really young guys? And if you do that, then you're going to have Jovic or Jaquez, whoever, to take a big leap in year one or year two, whatever that is, in meaningful minutes. You're giving up not just depth, you're giving up defense. Dame has never been a great defender. Let's not forget that. He's predominantly a scorer and assist man.
Yeah, and you have with Richardson. What's up, Anthony? How you doing, man? And he asked, can we keep Hero? There's a possibility. Financially, it makes sense. Financially, it could be done. But then you start coming down leveraging your assets, what you're willing to trade, what you're willing to give up. So can it be done? Yes. Will it be done? We will find out. We don't know. Because from the beginning, I was always intrigued by it because I'm like, obviously he was an established star as well, and you have him under control for the next 4 years. You got Lowry's numbers coming off the books next year if you don't trade him. So it all comes down to how much are you willing to pay in taxes if you go over the second apron next year. So this year the taxes are a little bit less. That's why Phoenix went into the second apron, and they're managing around. They're acquiring second-round picks. They did a few trades even with Cameron Payne to lower their tax bill. So every owner's in the same boat. They're navigating this. This is the only thing I do. I'll tell you this. It bothered me, for example, Austin Rivers talking the other day about the Dame situation.
I was going to bring this up.
Yeah, he doesn't know all the details. And Austin Rivers, when he was traded, he refused to report to Phoenix. So those are. You can't talk about something to know the full details because I shared the link with you guys on Twitter. There seems to be from the Blazers media, from a Blazers podcast, there was an understanding when Dame Lillard had that meeting with Cronin where they were no longer going to talk about him building around Dame. They were going to trade Dame to his preferred destination, which according to those sources, when Dame signed his extension, part of the agreement, that wink agreement, was if we don't rebuild around you or if we don't build around you, we will send you to the destination of your choice. So obviously, those are unwritten. It's not in your contract. Those are things that you build with a relationship with trust with your GM. Now, I'm going to second. This is still going to affect Cronin. If he doesn't do the right thing here, this is going to affect Cronin future negotiations. Future GMs, future players are not going to want to deal with him. And he's going to lose a lot of leverage in this league. Relationships are important. But Austin Rivers conversation, one thing that is the disparity in contracts. You have players either making max salaries or you're making vet minimums. How do you feel, Justin? I know that's going to out because usually I remember the Kevin Durant situation when the NBA had that massive jump one year when the Warriors were able to sign Kevin Durant cap space. So this is kind of like an adjustment of the NBA, usually a 1 or 2 year period. So it will average out. But how do you feel about that point in regards to the disparity between contracts where no middle class in the NBA anymore? It's either you're rich, or you're just poor and you're surviving on a vet minimum.
It's symbolic of what's happening in society today. There's either rich or you're dirt poor. They're trying to get rid of the middle class. And essentially that's what the new CBA has done to the NBA. But at the end of the day, we've got to think about who's really driving up the revenues, paying the bills. Exactly. It's the showcasing of guys like Damian Lillard, Jaylen Brown, Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, guys like that. Luka, we're talking superstars here. People aren't coming to see Austin Rivers. I hate to say it, but they're coming to see Steph Curry. They're coming to see Klay Thompson. They're coming to see every guy that I just named and more. A household name.
It's always been a superstars league. And unfortunately, until you accept it, now you're seeing it more in the financial disparity. Before, you kind of saw it in advertisements, in sponsorship deals, where you had a sponsorship deal and you had a massive contract and massive revenue and you were the face of the franchise. But now you're seeing it more day to day where these you know what, I noticed it when the coaches' salaries started going up. I was like, whoa, coaches' salaries are really going through the roof now. And obviously with Miami, we'd never know because they don't release their information. We don't know how much Pat Riley makes. We don't know how much Spo makes. I find out that I think Spo's contract has incentives per win as well. So he earns a certain amount per win, which is interesting. It's not like a set amount. So I'm like, that's pretty cool. So you can tell he's negotiated. He has given a homestyle discount, I'm pretty sure, to Miami because teams, there were rumors. I know Ethan Skolnick brought this up. There were rumors a few years ago that Portland was entertaining the option of him like a massive role in the including, I guess, president of basketball operations and everything to be able to lure him because he is from Portland. So there was always that traction of like, does he go to Portland and run the show there? Which is interesting. Now we're dealing with Portland and Cronin. So I just want a resolution where James Harden made a good point where he mentioned that he sees it both ways for the organizations and for the teams. It's true. You sign a contract. You're a millionaire. But in this case, the details matter. Dame Lillard has given you 11 years. He just didn't sign his first max deal. This is his second contract with you, his second extension with you. He gave you every opportunity. So there's also a gentleman's agreement where if you're going to rebuild, I look at it like the Westbrook situation. You can send this man to where he wants to play. And I believe it works in benefit of the league and the players and the GM, where you're not trying to get strong-armed. Just do right by your players, and they'll do right by you. Staying in the NBA, before we move on to anything, expansion. There has been rumors for a few years now about possible cities that will be awarded franchise. So I'll give you the premiere here because one of them, I believe they should have never left because it's an iconic town. It's a perfect sports town. So I'll give it up to you, man. How do you feel about the possible expansion cities and about the possible owner of one? There's rumors there too.
I'm ready.
Go. All you.
Okay, so let's talk Seattle.
Yes.
And going back to the Legion of Boom years for the Seahawks, you saw how diehard passionate those fans are. And think about all those fans getting into Planet Pledge Arena if they decide that's going to be the arena for the NBA team, just as it is for the Storm, as it is for the Kraken. That place is going to be a ruckus come April, May, June for the
Hmm.
playoffs. I'd love to see that city get it back. I was in Seattle in January, and I just remembered I hadn't been there in 22 years, how beautiful it was. Yeah, it's a little dark and dreary for half the year, but come playoff time, it's a gorgeous scene. The sun is back out, the water is nice, the weather's beautiful, and the people are ready. And plus, they have the baseball team that is the only team that has never played in the World Series. How do you feel about getting a basketball team back that won a championship in your city? First championship in Seattle's history, by the way, in
Was the
1907,
Sonics?
I believe.
Woo. Yeah, 1977. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Lenny Wilkins.
Yep.
Yep, man. It's it was sad when they left, when they drafted Kevin Durant and Westbrook. After Westbrook, the year after, they drafted Durant. Durant played 1 year in the Super Sonics, and then when they drafted Westbrook and Green, when Westbrook, they moved to OKC. I remember that summer in the transition. But that was a city that what I love about that it was that they kept all their records. So this expansion, which should be because they never should have left, once it's granted to Seattle, all the records go right back up. Their championship banner, all their historical records. OKC couldn't take anything from Seattle, which I think is how every franchise should do it. You have to relocate.
Charlotte
But the
did that
whole
when they changed it back to the Hornets.
exactly,
Yep.
it's only right. It's only right.
Unfortunately, Houston was not that smart when they let the Oilers walk, and now the Titans
That's
are wearing Oilers throwback uniforms this year.
That is insane, man. That is insane because I know they got the Texans, but the history, the Oilers' history, is so deep, and I never thought, and the Oilers just, and you know what's funny? Now that you mentioned that, I don't know, Justin, if it's a thing of the time passing and the appreciation, but those throwback jerseys that people wanted to get away from for so long, now I don't know, like the gap of time that has passed that you appreciate it more. But those throwbacks jerseys are beautiful, man. Across the board. The Jets won, the Dolphins, the Oilers, all the Denver. I don't know if you saw Denver Broncos new helmet today.
Denver's
The
one is
D.
nice, yeah.
I'm like
The snow
I
cap
want to
helmet.
see. I want to see them go back to their original, and it's just so cool, man. I
Yeah, the
said I don't know
Seahawks too. They're
those.
going back to their original too.
Yes. So, like I said, it could be the effect of time where you appreciate what you had and you maybe you got tired of that design. Obviously, now better material, sharper imaging. I get it. But the appreciation, those designs, those original designs are so cool, man. And now when you see it, the NBA went through the 90s where it was like massive imaging, like the Raptors, the Grizzlies. And now you're kind of seeing also kind of
Yeah.
like the similar simple jerseys. The Sonics were amazing jerseys before. They obviously they went back to the Rockets as well. The Rockets with a big animated
Yes, the
rocket.
San Diego Rockets days with the yellow and green.
So those are the things that I'm like, I love Jersey talk because you appreciate the aesthetics of the game and the historical factor. And it's true. Some people you play how you dress. Sometimes those jerseys do bring out the best in these teams, and they look cool. They play good. They play well, and they have great success. But
Let me say, nobody had a bigger fall from grace jersey wise than the Utah Jazz. Did you see what they were wearing this past year? It's like,
yeah,
how
yeah,
much more simple can you get?
they
When you
went.
used to have Stockton Malone, you had the mountains, the snow-capped
Yeah,
mountains,
yeah.
colors. That was retro. That was classic. And then you strip it all away to have just black and neon.
And neon, yeah, they went very modern, very simplistic, but they almost came out looking like an AAU team because the numbers are super big. It's just like big letters across. Like I get it, okay, it's very simple, very sleek, modern, but you don't get the feel for the Utah. I even loved the Darren Williams uniform and the Carlos Boozer uniforms. I thought those Jazz uniforms were super cool. Like they had the darker blue, the navy blue with a light blue combination. Then the Donovan Mitchell era and Rudy Gobert, where they kind of went like to the old school Jazz in that color scheme, even with Gordon Hayward, which were decent. But that's another team. I thought for a while that the Jazz was going to go back to New Orleans and that Utah will get another. And the whole thing with the New York Pelicans came up, and even for the names. Oh, we could do that. I wanted the Knights when New Orleans was going to be renamed. I wanted the Knights. Now, the other expansion team, obviously rumored, is possibly Las Vegas, which is all they're missing because they're going to get the A's. They already got the Raiders. They're going to get an expansion team. But what would you name them? Like, you can't name them the Aces because that's the WNBA team. You can name them Spades or Gladiators. What can we name them? Let's play that game. What's a cool name for a Vegas basketball team? You can't name them the Knights because the hockey team.
Right.
So the Golden Knights.
The
What
Bandits.
are your options? The Bandits? I like that. I like that. Las Vegas Bandits. That's awesome. You see? High rollers.
Somebody paid me millions of dollars for that already.
Oh, man. We're coming on the 30-minute mark. So we're going to keep it simple today. It's just me and Justin. Two-man crew. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe to the Finch Talk Sports Network. But, Justin, like I said, we're going to the dead NBA season. We might see some movement. We might see, obviously, I don't think, is anybody else eligible for a max extension, or it was just, I think already signed, Anthony Edwards already signed his extension, his rookie extension. Brown obviously signed the Supermax.
LaMelo did too.
LaMelo his extension.
Tyrese Halliburton did too.
Yes. One thing, Clutch, Justin. How do you feel Harden's situation is going to end up? Because he's at a stalemate right now, and you can tell he wants to be elsewhere. And then the Embiid combo came up. I see this that Harden being in the Sixers, it kind of diminishes Tyrese Maxey. And Maxey and Embiid can be a great 1-2 combo. So how do you see this ending up with Harden?
With Harden, it's just countdown until he goes to the Clippers, everybody is saying. And I don't even know how that fit would look to say you've got a load managing guy in Kawhi Leonard, another load managing guy in Paul George. So is Harden going to start load managing himself too? Or is he going to play through it? Because in his Houston days, he would play almost every game. But he's not the same player anymore. And I don't know if you saw the video recently of him taking like 6 or 7 Trill burgers at a party.
Yeah, that was him rolling out. That was in the concert at the Dolphins at the Hard Rock. He was just partying it up.
That's right. For those of you who are unaware, Bun B, a major rapper in Houston who Harden is boys with, has a restaurant called Trill Burgers, who good friend of my dad's, and I met in Coachella, is his PR guy. And I got to meet that guy. I didn't get to meet Bun B. But yeah, that's why you saw that video happening. You saw Bun B and his brand of burgers, and Harden, his boy, happening to be there too, just stocking up. But who knows? Harden's probably giving that to some stripper or something.
Of course, man. And I got to give this. Harden has always been loyal to his friends. He's always helped out his own. And I do think eventually he finds a way back to Houston because I feel that's where he's been the most comfortable. He never orchestrated that exit because they worshipped him in Houston. And he was doing no wrong for a period of time. Obviously, his exit was a little turmoil. But I do feel that one of those players that will find his way back to Houston eventually as his career winds up, when he takes on the role of like a mentor, coming off the bench, and which leads me to my final point, Austin. This is an interesting point that it hasn't happened yet. I know there were jokes about it because you mentioned it, the whole Mbappe offer with the Saudi Arabian team. This kind of came out of nowhere, but they've been building this for years, and supposedly basketball is pretty big there. I'm not familiar with this, but I was thinking about it when LeBron James kind of did that tweet jokingly, like when they offer you $1 billion, and it was a Tom Hanks running in Forrest Gump. Do you see a point where NBA retirees, sign massive deals and they become basically game ambassadors, where they're playing glorified pick games in front of the masses? And you kind of saw that with Marbury when he went into exile in China and he established a culture there. He found happiness. He found peace there. So all glory to him, all power to him for doing so. And at the time, which was what we tell a lot of our players, I'm like, you can make a living basketball anywhere. You can make a living coaching basketball anywhere. Obviously, some parts of the globe, like in Europe, you get paid. You have a better financial situation. I lost Childress during the lockout when he signed with Olympiacos in Greece. So they've always flirted with the overseas game. Do you see a point just where there is a league or a certain country that can take away certain NBA talent with massive amounts of money? Because obviously you're getting huge contracts in the NBA. You're playing in the most important league in the world, basketball wise, but it is a global game. And eventually the money will catch up to you. There are other countries that are well off that could take off some players. They'll play there for 2 to 3 years and they're set for life. Do you see that ever happening in our time frame?
You've already seen it with golf with the Live Tour, and now you're seeing it with soccer with Mbappe and what they offered Messi. But NBA, that could be the next target. How much do you think they would pay LeBron James to go play his last 2 years in Saudi Arabia?
They'll pay him that much. They'll pay him $1 billion a year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
because they've got the money and they
burn.
want to be entertained, those people.
Yeah. They have money to clean. They have money to burn. They have everything. Now,
yet the Burj Khalifa doesn't even have its own sewage system.
Those are things that, Justin, like I look around, and you look around in the world and you see poverty, and then you see these, which is ostentatious riches that you're willing to offer one human being $700 million just to play 1 year. You're literally just away money because he's not going to sign there. Mbappe, even if he goes there, he's not going to sign. He's just going to sit out or play a few games and he's gone. And it's just what we've reached sports-wise. When I saw leagues partner up with the bettors and gambling, I'm like, okay, these salaries are going to go through the roof because that's where the money is. It used to be under even P. Rose. P. Rose was attacked for so many years. I understand why. I get it. But what he was doing, pretty much everybody else was doing. So those are the things that now is like you're in bed with the bettors. You're in bed with gambling. Just make it legal.
He was in bed with an underage girl.
Oh, that's another thing. Yeah, that's another. Yeah. That part there is 100%. So that is, and pardon me that I'm not saying that. I was just talking about the betting situation, which was known to the major public, but that's true. And those are the things that with athletes you cannot condone and you cannot excuse who you are. And those are the parts right there where you create a fame and the immoral acts that just tarnish you forever and changes a person's life, which is something that people don't understand this. They always see the athlete, but there's always the other part to it. But with that in mind, Justin, we could wrap it up. Any final thoughts on the NBA world? Anything you see crazy happening in the NBA, or is this going to be continued dead summer all the way through August?
We're just going to be watching this Lillard saga drag out all the way, I think, to the first week of the season, possibly.
You think it goes into training camp?
I think it does. I don't think we're going to see much movement over the next couple months.
We're just going to see who. Let's see who folds first, because it's just a massive game of chicken. You're just there, just hanging out. It's like literally just you and me like this, just staring at each other like.
Any day now.
Okay, I gotta go.
Any day now.
It's one of those, man. But hey, thank you so much for joining. Have fun in San Francisco. Go around the city. Let me know how many people stop you, how many autographs you sign, how many people you're Steve Kerr, man. Just Justin Kerr. You're his little brother. Miami. Thank you so much.
Michael once passed me and said, "I'm too scared to take the last shot." So you
and you see my son there doing the fish. Miami. Thank you so much for listening. Everybody have a good enjoy. And are we up? Are we still 4-0 into Miami? There we go. 4-0. Miami, have a good night. Take care.